The X Move is the follow-up to haute42's wildly popular X controller. The original X made waves for its modularity, allowing gamers to mix and match their controls to suit their ideal setup. With the X Move, some of that modularity is gone, but it's not necessarily missed. We can still choose what kind of directional input we have, be that stick, WASD or low profile switch buttons, but the action and jumps are low profile style only. We can't change these. It does have some tricks of its own though, and we're going to talk about that properly in a bit. If you're new here and you're interested in level-less controllers and gaming tech, pick a number and follow the instructions on screen. In a box we have a braided USB cable, a switch puller, a couple of spare shadow hunting switches, and of course the controller itself. I'm going to show you the sliding mechanism first. I know that's what you're here for. The mechanism is surprisingly stiff, so to slide these we need to push down firmly and push, or claw it across with the thumb. The stiffness makes it hard to refine the exact position you want, but the good thing is when you do find the spot you like, it's not going to move until you intend to change it. I can't imagine this is something you do too often, and it does mean that no matter your hand size, it's likely you'll find a position that's best for you and you can leave it there. If haute42 were to make a version 2 of this mechanism, it would benefit from some sort of locking slide or button that you can toggle to move these panels more freely. This has to be done the right way though, because we wouldn't want to sacrifice the rigidity during play. You'd still want this in the exact same spot you left it in. Now the movement side is similar to what we have on the X1. The default module is the low profile suite, with the stick module and WASD module sold separately. The button modules retain the angle adjustment, so you can fine tune your approach to whatever feels comfortable. The MX suite also works here, but I do believe they will be discontinued, so if you want this module, you're gonna have to get this one soon. So it retains the flexibility of being a full leveless, a mixed box with the WASD, or an arcade stick. Physically, it looks and feels more like the Ultra series than the X1. It's a large body, lovely chamfered edges all around with a steep slope on the chin. They're using a full matte finish on this. It's super coarse and should be decent at fending off hand juice, although I still recommend a wipe down after every session. It's thicker than the Ultras and deceptively heavy, probably one of their heaviest models to date, which is fine if you mostly play at home or if you enjoy a heavy controller like myself. But it's something you should factor in if you have to carry this around to locals quite often. The weightiness will be a benefit if you're going to be using this as a stick, because sticks feel better with a heavy, sturdy base due to the vigor required for that playstyle. If you compare the mobility to a full-size stick, it's still very good because it's slimmer and easier to pack. We have a full body LED strip all the way around. On the back they've put on their large rubber strips, and we have the cable lock on top. The rest of the base has the same coarse matte finish as the front. To say this is an Ultra 2 with some bells and whistles is appropriate, because we can think of this as the Ultra 2 with modular controls. The size is similar, the function buttons, the cable lock. It's a good base to work from because the Ultra 2 is a great controller in my opinion. The face does have labeling. I'm sure you lot are sick of hearing me say this, but I like my labeling. However, it's mostly hidden unless you get some light on it. I really love this stealth colorway. I think it works well for this controller because there aren't that many buttons on the main cluster. But I do think there will be a learning curve for the function role. These buttons will be used regularly during lab and training modes, so you have to memorize where your reset and record buttons are, as the labeling is hard to see. Not a problem after an hour or two of getting used to the placement, but something to be mindful of if you switch between different controllers a lot. I have to quickly mention the understated Cosmox logo below the screen too. It's a non-intrusive way to get that branding in there. Strange choice to go with the smaller screen this time round though. As usual, this haute42 controller is powered by the GP2040 software. It's a great piece of kit and is constantly being updated and getting better. We have 2 USB sockets, so you decide where your cable pops out from. And if you want to run this on the PS5 or Series X, you'll need a dongle, either plugged into the controller or into the console itself. For some unfathomable reason, it doesn't seem like haute42 are making the Booter 5 anymore for PS5 compatibility. It's been out of stock everywhere for some time, but there are other small footprint options like the Magic Boots. And if you're an Xbox person, the Booter X is still available. Links below. The X Move comes pre-installed with shadow hunting switches. These are my favorite because they have a shorter throw, so they travel less before bottoming out. I believe some people feel these are a bit sluggish when popping back up, but for my timing on Street Fighter 6, they're perfect. If you prefer different switches, a keycap and switch puller is included in the box, and you can source any Kale Chalk V2 low profiles and they'll be compatible. Art modding this will require a vinyl sticker, but it might look a bit weird since the sliding mechanism means there's some negative space on the controller. And as mentioned, the stealth look is pretty good, so there's no harm in admiring its natural design. For my first comparison, I have the X1. There are two fundamental differences between these. The first is that the X1 supports MX modules for the action and jump buttons. The second is the gap between the jump button and action buttons. It's a bit wide for my hands as a right thumb jumper, so a compromise for me is to use this smaller M2 button as my jump. If you have larger hands, this might not affect you. Everything else is aesthetic or not performance essential. The X1 doesn't have ring lighting like the X Move, but it does have lighting on the labels. Unlike older haute42 controllers, these two allow you to use the switches you prefer without compromising on RGB lights. The X1 is curvier on the edges and has a simple retro aesthetic because it doesn't have the slope. Around the back, the X1 has a full TPU base compared to the strips on the Move. Finally, the X1 comes with a carry case packed in. This carry case is designed with module storage in mind, and I don't believe it's available separately. So yeah, if you go for the X Move, it's going to feel less fancy compared to the X1, but I don't think it loses anything in terms of versatility unless you really want MX buttons for strikes and jumping. This is the Ultra Gen 2. The buttons are the same size, but there are two more on the face of the Ultra. On the Move, the LS and RS buttons are accounted for up on the function row. The Ultra Gen 2 uses the newer style large screen, and it's thinner and lighter than the Move because it doesn't need the extra density for stick play. It's also a bit more comfortable to my hands because the distance and angle of the jump feels more natural to me. And this won't matter to some people, but the Ultra Gen 2 sounds nicer to my ears. I prefer a creamy sound, and the Ultra hits that spot nicely. I have full reviews for the Ultra Gen 2 and X1 on my channel, which I will link to at the end of this video. I am a massive fan of haute42's X1 model. I really liked everything they were going for and what the controller represented and offered. I even said that it was the future of fight sticks due to it having levelers, WASD and stick input covered in one product. No other company has attempted the same thing yet, but I'm glad haute42 has jumped in for another go with this format because it shows that they're keen to make it work. In my opinion, they haven't got it completely spot on. The adjustment for the thumb buttons is great. It's nice to be able to place this where I need it. And whilst the action button adjustment is a good idea too, it just never feels completely comfortable because the top row of buttons are shifted to the right, forcing my wrists to come into my body, which is not my preference. So overall, I like what they're attempting with the X Move, but it's not going to be the first controller I reach for if I want a comfortable experience. For some people, this can still be a good choice. Both X controllers are still the best and only option for gamers that want to cover all their arcade gaming needs with just one controller, thanks to the module options. And if you don't intend to use these buttons down here as a jump, you might find it more comfortable than I do. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found this video helpful, and shout out to haute42 for sponsoring this review. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you need a guide for choosing your levelers controller, click on this video.